Tonight, since Mike is on his way back from Florida or from Chicago, you guys are stuck with me for the tire. And let me use this here. I gotta do some stuff. There we go. I haven't done this in over a year, so I'm not sure how this is going to work out. Okay, let me get rid of that. The first fly I want to tie for you is Lance Eagan's Rainbow Warrior. Let me get you an example of that. That's the Rainbow Warrior. That's a size 14, I believe. It's a very simple fly, as you can see. The tail right here is just pheasant. The body is red thread wrapped with a tinsel, pearl tinsel. I'll show you that in just a second. It's got a brass 3/32 bead, and that's it. That's all there is to it. The pattern that I saw recommended you use a tungsten bead, silver tungsten bead, but I didn't have any of those, so I went with the plain bronze bead, and that's what I used up at. While I adjust here a little bit, that was what I used, the bronze bead up at out at Fort Robb when I was out there, and I used this fly at Chadron, and I used it at Fort Robb. Can't think of the ponds I was on. And I also used it in Monroe Creek, which is a little tiny creek that we fish for brook trout. And except for Monroe Creek, where I didn't catch anything, but I got several trout. Several of the little brookies come after it, but they get it and they hit it and then just spit it back out again. So, but I got quite a few fish in other places. So, let me go ahead and start this for you. Oh, let me give you the materials here first. So let me just do that. Okay. As I said, we're going to use some tinsel, pheasant tail for the tail, tungsten beads. These are in brass. I'm going to use a size 14 scud hook. And then the dubbing I'm going to use tonight, I've actually got two that I got. One is this hairline light rainbow scud dub. And the other one, when I first tied these, I did not have any of that. I had to order it. So I made my own. And this is what I made. And this is what I used. And it seemed to work pretty darn good. So let me get a hook in the vise. And we'll go from there. I want to show you how I get these hooks out too. Let's see here. Let me go back to the materials camera. Yeah. Made this little stick with a little magnet on the end. And what I can do now is I can stick the stick down in here where the hooks are. And I can pull out a hook just like that. Put that in the vise. Makes it a lot easier to get the hook out of that little tiny package. And I'm going to go ahead and bend that barb down. Otherwise, I won't be able to get that bead on. I'm just going to put it there for a minute. Now I'm going to use the same little stick to go into my bead pack. And I should be able to just grab a bead out of there. Yeah, there we go. And I just knocked them all over the place. There we go. Okay, so I got a bead on here. And now I will grab the hook. I can find my I'm going to go back to the vise. Oh, I just knocked the bead off. Of course I did. Well, can't believe I'm having this much trouble with beads tonight. So I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to just act like we got a bead on there. I have spilled all my brass beads and I can't get the other one on. It just, so we'll just assume I've got a brass bead on there. I can tie this thing without it. Okay. So the thread I use is 70 denier UTC. I like it because with a fly like this, trying to make the slab body I'm going to back out of here a little bit. There we go. I like the UTC because I can unwrap it or you know, I can tighten it up or loosen it up so I can get a nice wrap. Okay. I'm going to start right there and clip that off. Now I'm going to tie in the pheasant tail. And I only tie in about 5 or 6 of these. Just like that. And I pull them out. You've all seen this done many times till it's parallel. Then I just hold on to this and I pull the feather away. Clip it off. And now I've got nice even feathers on the end there. Okay. Now the tail needs to be about as long as the barb of the hook. So that's right about there. I'll just go ahead and tie that in. And I want to tie right on the top. And I'll go back down the hook. And I want to tie quite a ways down the bend on this. And with these curved hooks, you got to kind of be careful you don't get that barb. A little bit more, right about there should be good. Yeah. And now I'm going to come back up, touching wraps, coming backwards up over the hook. And tie that pheasant tail down, keeping that nice smooth body if I can. Now, if I had a bead on, I'd be stopping right there, but without a bead, I'll just stop right here. There we go. And we'll just clip that off. Okay, let me zoom in on that just a little bit. Here you can see it looks that's pretty smooth body. There we go. Okay. The next thing I need to tie in is the cellulose, or the tinsel. So I'll just grab about 3 or 4 inches of tinsel. And I've already cut it off, so I'm going to use this right here. And I'll tie that in. And I'm going to tie it all the way back into the to where I just finished tying in the tail. Okay, come on here. This stuff is sometimes can be a real bear to deal with. Okay. And I want it on the top, just like this. And now I'll just take more touching turns right back down that shank of the hook. Again, nice smooth body, as smooth as you can get it. And I'm going to unspool my thread so I can flatten it out a little more. Kind of hard with 70 denier, it really doesn't flatten a whole lot. And another couple of wraps and I should be good. Yeah. Okay. Now I'm going to wrap up forward. Again, nice smooth wraps. Touching turns. Nice smooth body. And come all the way up to just about the eye. There we go. And now I'm going to come back down to about the 1/3 length. Now, if I had a bead on, I would move it to about the point of the hook. I'm a little bit shy of that position here because without the bead, the third of a body is right about here. You can kind of see it. This is a third. There's 2/3, 3/3. So now I'm going to take this and I'm going to, oh, I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. Let me bring it back up to here. Now I'm going to wrap the body with this tinsel. And I'm going to use the rotary feature of my vise because it makes it a whole lot easier. So I'll put a little half hitch in here. Put that right there. Sorry about that. Okay. Now I need some dubbing, and I'll just go ahead and use this hairline dubbing right there. Rainbow Scud dub. Oh, I suppose I ought to wrap this thing forward for well, I'm getting all screwed up. Okay, so let's just go ahead and wrap this thing up. Now, I want to overlap this stuff. So at each turn is overlapping the previous one a little bit. Or at least that's what I'm trying to do. The pattern calls for using a large size. Unfortunately, the largest I had was medium. So I had to go with that. Okay. Stop right there. Sorry about that. Like I say, I haven't done any camera work in quite a while. Okay. And wrap it up here. And now I'm going to come back. I'm going to wrap this backwards to about the 1/3 point, and I'm going to use what's left of this material as my wing case. So now I'll get my dubbing out. And with all dubbing, less is more. One of the problems I think most people have with dubbing is they try to dub too heavy too soon. And this stuff is really, you can see it's pretty long. So it's not going to be easy stuff to dub with, I don't think. Okay, that's probably too much. Okay. Now, when I dub and I've got a bead on here, I try to dub so that the head is about the same length as the same depth as the bead. And pull this back a little bit. Now I can bring this tinsel up forward like so. All right, tie this thing right on down. Tie it down like so. Come on. There. And I can see I crowded the eye. Pull this back. Okay. Move that hook. There we go. So it's not sliding off. Okay. Cut this tinsel off. And a half hitch. And there is the Rainbow Warrior.
That will catch fish.
Yeah, it does. And it's I tie it in 16s and 18s, and this time of the year is when it seems to be most effective. And I think the smaller sizes are most effective this time of year because the fish are in the process of stocking up their food stores for the long hard winter, and of course the bugs this time of year are fairly small. So what we wind up doing is lots of fish trying to eat a lot of small critters. And this is just absolutely a perfect little critter because it looks like a lot of different things. And I would expect that this would be very effective as a stream nymph this time of year because there's a lot of fish like rainbows and salmon that are in the creeks that are running and spawning. And this might resemble an egg sac. So just a thought. I don't know. But I know Lance did say that this was a real fish catcher. And so far, my experience bears that out. So, okay. I apologize for the camera and the camera work and the screw ups on that one, but I think you get the idea on how to tie that fly. Still can't believe I lost all my beads down on the floor. It's going to be fun to try and find tomorrow. Okay. The next fly I want to tie for you is a standby that I've been using for quite a few years. And this is a Gurgler. Now, if you look up the Gurgler, you'll find a couple of them mentioned in the text. One is the Gartside Gurgler, which apparently is the original. And that was invented back east, and it looks quite a bit different than this, although there are a lot of similarities with it. And there's another one called I think it's the Boehm Gurgler. And he uses Erstot's chenille for the body. This particular fly, you can see the body is out of yellow foam, and then I palmer hackle some small hackle on it. And that's how I make this fly. Again, a very, very simple fly to tie, but boy, is it effective. Excuse me. I was fishing with Kurt Sievers and his daughter Emily in the Grable Ponds a couple of weeks ago. And my first cast, I had a gurgler that had this exact fly on. First cast, fish came up, took the fly. I set the hook, and that was the last I saw of the hook, the line, and the fly, and the fish. And well, shoot. So I brought it in, and it had just snapped. I said, that's strange. So I said, okay, fine. So I've been using the same tippet for for the whole weekend. So I decided I'd take it and get rid of it, put a new one on. So I tied a brand new tippet on, a 6X, and about 18 inches, tied another gurgler on it. Next cast, same thing. Fish hit it, broke it right off. I said, boy, I don't know what's going on here. So again, new tippet, new fly. About three casts later, wham, fish took it. And this time he didn't break it, and I got it in, and it was a 16-inch rainbow. And I did when we got back, I checked the stocking records, and the last time they stocked that pond was back in March. And that's kind of unusual to see fish that are carryovers from March still surviving in October. And Kurt and I thought about it, and you can see that the pond is being fed by a bunch of springs up in one end of it. So it's a spring-fed pond, so it probably stays about 50 degrees all year long. The fish survive, and it's far enough of a walk. It's about a half to 3/4 of a mile walk from where you park back in to where it's not easily seen, and I don't think very many people know about it. And I don't think many people are willing to do the hike back in there because it's kind of boony stomping a little bit, not too bad. So the fish were basically wild rainbows, even though they were stockers. And that was kind of fun. So anyway, the materials that I used on this fly are very simple. A couple of millimeter foam right here. Some standard hackle. And that's it. And there is nothing else in this fly. So let me just get a new hook in there. I use a standard 10 or 12 dry fly hook. And right now I'm going to use a TMC 100 number 12 hook. For some reason, I've got a ton of these. I'm not sure why. I must have found a bargain on them. Get my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing here. Just bend that barb down. Yeah, Bill was commenting about this vise. This is from Moonlit, and I've had this now about 3 or 4 years, and I really, really like it. And I like the guys that I bought it from. They're really friendly, and they're really good people. In fact, I liked it so well, I bought another one. So I've got a spare sitting in my dresser over there. Okay. When I get ready to measure my foam, I measure it a little bit wider than the gap of the hook. Not much, just a little bit. You can see there it's maybe 1 1/4 gap widths. Now, a lot of people that you can read about, and they'll say make it 1 gap. So one of the things that a lot of people ask is, how do you mark your foam? Let me show you a little trick I found. to measure the foam so I know how much to cut. It's the same trick that Mike shows when he's trying to pull barbs on a feather to make a shellback or something like that. I basically just take my hook like so. Oop. And put my foam right there like so, and just come here. There we go. And just put a little point in it. There. Then
Hey,
I do
John,
that. Huh?
I saw someone, what they did is they took their cut piece of foam and they drug it 90 degrees to the hook, and they used the hook to make a little parallel line through the
Yeah, you
hole.
can do that too.
Yeah, I
Just
just,
like this. I've seen it done that way too. Just like that.
yep.
And you can see it does the same thing. Puts little marks in it. So lots of ways of doing it. I like to do it the way I just showed because I'll cut a whole strip of it at a time. See, there we go. I've got a whole box full of these for size 10 and 12s because that's all I tie are 10s and 12s in this. Now the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to cut this at a point right here. That just makes it a little easier to tie in. The thread that I'm going to use is right here. Now you notice that looks kind of strange, pretty heavy, and it doesn't look like regular fly tying thread, and probably because it isn't regular fly tying thread. This is actually Madeira rod wrapping thread that I use, but it is good and strong. And with that foam, I need something pretty heavy that I can crank down on when I need to. But it's also fairly heavy so that it doesn't cut the foam. That's one of the problems I've had with Semper Fly on these flies, is that it cuts the foam. Okay. Okay, tie that in right there. Cut it off. Now bring my thread back up to the front here. Grab the foam. And getting it started is always kind of a trick. Oh, I guess it's going to cooperate for me tonight. Crank that down good and tight. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap backwards at a diagonal to about the bend in the hook. Okay. You can see what it looks like on the bottom and on the top. And I'm right about the bend, maybe just, yeah, right there is it. I'm right at the bend right there. So, okay. Now we're ready for some hackle. And I've already pulled out some hackle. There it is right here. See, that's just a long saddle hackle. And what I'm going to do is this up in here is way too small. So and this is inexpensive hackle that I got. So I'm just going to break that off right there. I'm going to put it dull side toward me. And now I'm going to tie it in right here. And I'll bring my thread back forward. First, I'll clip off that excess there. Not that it makes that much of a difference. But now I'm going to bring it forward. And again, I'm going to go diagonally over these wraps. And I'm going to start really cranking down on it. Because otherwise this foam will rotate around the hook, and it's probably going to rotate anyhow. There we go. Now, the one thing I want to mention, and a lot of times what people will do is they'll put some super glue underneath here when they put it on. And that works really, really well. I just didn't have any super glue with me tonight. I could have used Sally Hansen's. I got some of that right here and put it on. But I didn't. I don't like using that stuff. When you crank down tight like this, you're compressing that foam. And when you compress that foam, you're eliminating a lot of the floatability of the fly. So I've yet to find a way to make this fly without having to compress it down. Ah, son of a gun. I don't believe I did that. Okay, back to the back of the hook. One more, I think. Yeah. Okay. We tie it in again. Okay, I'm not going to cut it off this time. Ah, did you ever have one of those nights? Okay. All right. Now we'll wrap this guy forward. And I'm going to palmer it. So barber pole, basically. Put that off. Go. And the last step. I'm going to bring this thing forward. Hold it down good and tight. Over the top. Hold it down tight. Couple more good tight wraps. Bring it back. And then a little bit of a head. On the half hitch. Here I am. Whip finish. That off. And now I'm just going to clip this off at a point right here. That. Like that. And there is a gurgler. And you can see what the bottom looks like. And here's the reason that I tie this with the angles across it. You can see how that bottom now looks nice and segmented. And that's, of course, this is the side of the fly that the fish sees. So now a lot of people will tie an indicator on here, a piece of foam right here that they can see. But and if I was tying a black or a darker color, I would probably do that. I'd probably tie something right here as an indicator so I could watch it. But this yellow fly is going to stand out like a sore thumb. And even when it gets a little wet and it sinks a little bit, and it's just below the surface, it's real easy to see. And in fact, I've found that it's most effective after it starts floating just below the surface. For some reason, the fish really like it down in that area. So, okay. Any questions on that fly, or any of the Rainbow Warrior?
And on this one, John, my problem is I've had troubles getting the heads to really cut uniformly, and then mine love to just spin in the air and become like a little corkscrew.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I just cut it like that, and it's not symmetrical.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't have that issue with them.
Maybe because maybe I had a back gap or something in it, or who knows, something to catch.
I don't know. It spins while you're casting it.
Yeah, what it did is I had a dropper on it, and I bring it back forward, and about the fifth or sixth cast, it literally had corkscrewed it so much stuff up that it literally collapsed the bottom fly into it, and it was just like a perfectly wrapped little spiral. You can ask Gene. It was absolutely gorgeous. Remember, he said I can make knots better than anybody else. Well, that was one of them with the Gurgler, and I was like, tried the second one, did the same thing. So it's got to be something with my construction technique. I was like, okay,
Yeah, I would. Well, either that or the way you cast.
yeah, it's probably the way I
Because
cast.
I've been tying them like this now for several years, and
Yeah,
this particular fly right here, I'll use it all day long, and it'll never get spun up or it'll never interfere with anything. So now I will say this: I normally don't fish it with a hopper dropper configuration on
oh, okay.
it. That could be a problem. I've never
Yeah, I
tried
was
it
using,
that way.
sorry about that. I was using a bead head, a little tungsten bead head on the back side of it. It was a little pink squirrel,
Yeah. Well,
a size
the
18.
aerodynamics of that with the bead head on it and the high drag on this foam fly that may have had a problem. That may have been causing some of your problems. So give it kind of a dumbbell effect.
That's kind of what it did.
So I don't know. I'd like to see you cast it so I can see what you're doing with it, but anybody else?